Angola's ruling MPLA party claims victory in this week's elections. A closer look at the highlights of this year's Africa Investment Report. And the Afrobeat sound of a Rwandese performer, Emmy. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Esther Githu in for Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Rival armed groups in northern Mali have signed a truce after weeks of fighting. The 15-day renewable truce was brokered in part by the United Nations and Mali's government. It comes after a 2015 peace agreement meant to bring stability to the desert region failed to curb insecurity. The latest deal was signed in the capital Bamako by leaders of the CMA, an alliance of separatist groups who are seeking the autonomy for a region in northern Mali, and the platform their pro-government opponents. Some of the militants linked to Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb have staged a series of high-profile attacks in Mali, Burkina Faso, and beyond in the last 2 years. They frequently target UN peacekeepers in the region, making it the most deadly UN mission to date. Malians have become disillusioned with President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita's government as security worsened dramatically over the past year. Police officers in Baidoa, Somalia, are being trained by the UN mission in Somalia on how to handle cases of sexual and gender-based violence. Their aim is to raise awareness among security officers about conflict-related sexual violence and its effect on peace and security. 54 police officers are also being trained on human rights and protection of civil liberties. Rape, child marriage, and domestic abuse often go unpunished in Somalia, where war has fueled a culture of violence and weakened institutions meant to uphold the law. Women's health in the country is also negatively affected by the practice of female genital mutilation.
Police has a duty to promote and protect human rights. But when it comes to issues of women, we feel that they have a duty to protect the women, regardless of where they are, whether they are IDPs, whether they're in their homes, whether it's place of work. And so we are trying to train them and build their capacity, which is part and parcel of our mandate.
Somalia has been without an effective central government since the overthrow of dictator Mohamed Siad Barre in 1991. The country is trying to build a professional police force to maintain law and order at all levels of government. Most of the 1.8 million people uprooted by Boko Haram's bloody campaign to create an Islamic State in northeast Nigeria are women and children. Every day, they worry about food, shelter, and security as they try to survive in camps and local communities. Health experts are warning about the psychological effect on the victims. To fill this gap, the Neem Foundation has set up a Counseling on Wheels program to provide psychological and social services to people in Maiduguri. The foundation also runs de-radicalization programs for both former Boko Haram militants and people rescued from the militants, whose beliefs they often adopt while under their control. Fatima Akilu, who runs the Neem Foundation, says she's seen tragic examples of the impact of Boko Haram's violence and influence on children.
There's a whole load of individual reasons that people join these groups, very similar to the reasons that young people join gangs, actually. A sense of belonging, brotherhood, identity. I think Boko Haram and then later ISIS, by introducing the idea of the caliphate, also really fired the imagination of a lot of young people who thought, now we can be part of history. So as part of de-radicalization, it was important for us to understand all these reasons.
Now, the program assesses victims' needs, teaches them to cope with trauma, and builds their resilience. Angola's ruling MPLA party candidate João Lourenço aims to become the country's next president, succeeding President José Eduardo dos Santos. who has ruled for 38 years. An election commission official in Luanda says the People's Movement for the Liberation of Angola, MPLA, had won just over 64% of the ballot, mounting what is described as an unassailable lead over its rivals. The two main opposition parties, UNITA and Kazase, immediately alleged that the count was flawed.
According to which our members have found ballot boxes different to those which were in the polling stations. That shows it's possible that there were votes which weren't real votes, but votes that were fabricated.
Lorenzo is expected to formally assume power next month, barring any legal challenges. Now to Kenya, where the Supreme Court is set to hold on Saturday a pre-trial conference on opposition candidate Raila Odinga's presidential election petition. The aim of the conference is to set the rules of engagement and consider a wide range of technical issues and electoral evidence, including confessions and interviews. The conference will also be used to determine how much time each party will use to make submissions or rebut any evidence presented during the hearing. Kenya's opposition coalition filed a petition at the Supreme Court challenging President Uhuru Kenyatta's re-election. The petition includes more than 25,000 pages in affidavits. Now to the United States. As a candidate for president last year, Donald Trump vowed to be a uniter and not a divider. But 7 months into his presidency, keeping that promise is proving to be elusive. Trump's controversial comments blaming both sides for the recent violence in Charlottesville, Virginia, has brought renewed focus on the question of whether the president is taking steps to heal the country or to divide it. VOA's Jim Malone reports.
It has been a week of contrast for President Trump. Speaking to a veterans group in Nevada, the president spoke of unity.
It is time to heal the wounds that divide us and to seek a new unity based on the common values that unite us.
Where there's pride in every American heart.
But a day earlier at a campaign-style rally in Phoenix, Trump attacked his political opponents and the news media. He also defended his controversial comments, blaming both sides in the wake of the violent protests in Charlottesville.
I got the white supremacists, the neo-Nazi, I got them all in there, let's say. Yeah, KKK, we have KKK. I got them all. So they're having a hard time. So what did they say, right? It should have been sooner. He's a racist.
Trump's rally also brought out protesters who've been energized in the wake of Charlottesville.
I'm really gobsmacked the way that man has been acting in office. It's been nothing but total disorder.
But many of Trump's core supporters remain upbeat.
He's amazing, and he's right. He's right about everything.
The fallout from Charlottesville did not help Trump's already weak poll ratings, says historian Alan Lichtman.
Compared to other presidents and other crises who have brought the country together, Trump gets a failing grade.
Trump's supporters accept his blustery style, says analyst Hans Noel via Skype.
He's not skilled in the same kinds of ways of dealing with ideas that most politicians are. And for some people, that's a feature, right? That's part of what makes him attractive, is that he doesn't have to do what people say, doesn't play the same game that other folks do.
This is a disappointment.
Growing tensions between Trump and Republican congressional leaders could spell trouble, said Larry Sabato via Skype.
The initiative will have to be in Congress among the Republicans. They control both houses, and they're the ones on the ballot next. Trump won't be on the ballot in 2018. They'll be on the ballot in 2018.
A new Quinnipiac poll found that 62% of those surveyed see Trump as a divider, while 31% view him as a uniter. Jim Malone, VOA News, Washington.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Also check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, is 2017 the year of cautionary optimism in Africa's investment? Stay with us.
This is BizBeat.
A robotic arm controls a 2,000-degree flame being used to test a jet engine part, the sort of job Herbie Mays used to do at a 3M plant in Milford, Ohio. The company moved to Mexico to cut costs, and Mays is out of a job, not just because of cheap Mexican labor, but because of robotics. The flip side, there are lots of manufacturers hiring in the U.S. and abroad, but they require different skills. 37-year-old A.J. Sherman is an apprentice learning to be a mechatronics technician at a plant in Virginia Beach.
When I tell someone I'm an apprentice, the first thing they ask is, do you make money? And the answer is obviously yes, we make great money.
A new age of new workers like 18-year-old Jalen Britton, who studied robotics in high school and has been training as an apprentice at Duke Energy.
But really the robots, they're going to enhance what we're already doing.
And not a victim of automation, but a beneficiary. For VOA's BizBeat, I'm Philip Alexio.
In Friday's business report, highlights from the recently released Africa Investment Report for 2017. Africa 54's Jill Malandrino reports from NASDAQ headquarters in New York.
The Africa Investment Report for 2017 was released, and it comes at a time of flux both in Africa and globally. The findings reflect some of this uncertainty while also demonstrating that investors are finding new, innovative, and productive ways to engage with the region. So I want to share the following highlights with you. While the number of FDI projects fell into Africa by about 60% to 602 in 2016, capital investment increased by 40% to $92.3 billion. Real estate was a top sector by capital investment in 2016, accounting for nearly $37 billion of announced FDI in the region. Construction was the top business activity by capital investment, also accounting for 40% of FDI. Combined, construction and manufacturing accounted for almost 2/3 of total capital investment. FDI into Africa accounted for 12% of global FDI in 2016, with projected numbers accounting for 5%. And finally, to no one's surprise, China became the largest investor in Africa by capital expenditure for the first time since FDI market records began in 2003, while the U.S. remains the most prolific investor by number of projects. From the NASDAQ market site in New York, this is Africa 54 Business News.
Now, our planet has a bit of a waste problem. Each year, at least 200 million tons of raw sewage goes untreated. This is an environmental and health crisis, but one enterprising startup in Kenya is turning all that waste into fuel. VOA's Kevin Enox has more.
This is a tiny bit of the millions of tons of raw sewage the United Nations says goes untreated every year. But here, at this Kenya startup, after being dried, carbonized, and mixed with sawdust and molasses, it's getting a new life.
Carbonization basically is a process whereby you increase the carbon content of your materials. In this case, we are using the drum kiln. The sludge is fed. The drum has some holes at the bottom. These holes allows the oxygen to come in a controlled manner. That oxygen will only support combustion, but to a certain level, so that it doesn't burn completely into ash.
Little by little, what was human waste gets turned into fuel. It's not only cheaper, but also more environmentally friendly than charcoal.
In this way, you are able to eliminate all the volatile matters, all the harmful gases, and it is at this point that you ensure that your sludge doesn't smell. It's safe for handling when you are carrying out the other processes, which is milling and briquette production.
The finished briquettes burn better and cleaner than charcoal. The only challenge is convincing people that it's okay to use them. That's not an easy sell, but the low-tech company has some lofty goals, and they're making progress and ramping up production.
The output capacity of the carbonization machine, we are targeting at least 10 tons per day, which then will be processed in trout-shaped briquettes.
A kilo of briquettes sells for about 50 cents, cheaper than charcoal. The project is getting a ton of international support, and let's be honest, there's no shortage of raw material. Kevin Enox, VOA News.
It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, a hot new video from Rwandese performer Emmy. We'll be right back.
This is BizBeat.
Throughout Italy, you'll find castles, monasteries, and villas dating back to the 11th century, but there's hundreds of them decayed over time and because of neglect. Now, an initiative by the Italian State Property Agency, backed by the Ministry of Tourism, is giving away these properties to qualified applicants who will restore these treasures to boost slow tourism favored by trekkers, pilgrims, and bike lovers. Roberto Reggi is the director of the Italian State Property Agency. He says overall it's more than 300 properties. In 2017, we've already received 210,000 applications for the first 100. It's an extraordinary success. Owners are required to show restoration plans with some kind of facility, for example, a restaurant, maybe a museum or a clinic. Depending on the project plan and kind of agreement, owners would get property rights from 6 to 50 years. For VOA's BizBeat, I'm Philip Alexio.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. Caitlin Stewart from Canada, there's no stopping her as she nabbed the world's top bartending spot on Thursday, beating over 10,000 competitors in the prestigious world-class Best Bartender of the Year, a competition that rivals the intensity of the world sporting events. Stewart impressed judges with her skills, showmanship, high energy, and authentic approach to bartending and hospitality style. The acclaimed competition attracts the best bartenders from around the world who participate in a grueling competition to elevate the craft of cocktail creation and lead the industries through future trends. Next up, the latest trends in circus performances and new acts are presented by troops from around the world at Prague's Letna Festival. The latest trends in circus are increasingly overlapping with theater in order to attract the audience's attention. Performances trained animals for narrative that can carry deeper social questions. With an audience surpassing 40,000 last year, the two-week festival has established itself as an easygoing event, concluding the summer holidays in the nostalgic atmosphere of the acrobats in unexpected settings. And finally, Star Wars: The Last Jedi is still a few months away from hitting theaters, but fans are about to get a glimpse at a new character as a part of a 3-day marketing rollout of toys and products inspired by the film. The global event, dubbed Force Friday 2, will feature an augmented reality treasure hunt called Find the Force, using the Star Wars app in 20,000 participating locations in 30 countries. Fans can snap photos of the Find the Force symbol to find old favorites and discover a new character from the Jedi 2. The event runs from September 1st through the 3rd. The Last Jedi blasts off on December 15th. And that's what's trending today. And it's Music Makers Friday, and today we're featuring music from a Rwandese artist, Nsengiyumva Emmanuel, who is simply known as Emmy. He is known for his Afrobeat hits, and here to tell us more about Emmy's music is VOA's Roger Muntu, host of a popular RM show. Roger, welcome again to Africa 54.
Thank you, Esther.
Now tell us about this young man. Where did he start and how did he actually gain fame?
Emmy is from Houston, Texas. Well, originally from Rwanda. He grew up in Rwanda, you know, church-going boy with a really strong family background. But he went to Texas, Houston, Texas, when he was really young, and away from parenting, decided to start now R&B, which he wanted to do. I started in 2010. So he started making his own name within the community, the Rwandese community in Houston and throughout the United States. And now he's going beyond his own people's own community. Now he's performing with Nigerian artists, and he's being known now on a site of Nigeria, Ghana, thanks to the internet.
So he's based on in Texas now.
He's based in Texas now.
I understand he has some kind of tours he's doing. He's also coming.
Exactly. He is touring because he has a song called Wabagae, a beautiful song that he did perform for us. He was actually our guest here this week. So he's touring and he's performing here in D.C. this weekend.
Oh, this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll be there.
Oh, I'll be there.
But I would like to talk a little bit about his music before we listen to some video shots of him here. And from Afrobeats. Before Afrobeats, he was singing, was it R&B?
R&B, correct. He told me why. I did ask him that question during the show that we had live with him. I told him, look, you started singing in church, then you went R&B, then you went Afrobeat. What's going on? He said, Roger, look, in Houston, I'm not an American, so I was not born and raised here, so I can't compete with the R&B here in the United States, so I had to go back to my roots, which is Afrobeat. So his music, you can feel the mix of R&B and African music.
Let's see let's take a listen to one of the videos.
That's right. We're going to watch his Antari Uhuntu.
Yeah. Definitely. All right.
Tabaye kamere umuni kompaye ho yo ese kambona keshute bekanze nkwibutse uko kwatangiye. What do you want to go? What do you want to live? Baby, my love, yo umutima ukunda turachari kumwe kukwanga kukwirengagisa kukubesha ndamutse mbikoze n'abantu ari umuntu masheriyo maraviyo masheriyo maraviyo ndamutse mbikoze n'abantu ari umuntu masheriyo maraviyo masheriyo maraviyo.
He also competed in one of those musical competition known as what, Guma Guma?
Yes,
what was
Primus
that?
Guma Guma Superstar. It's a competition where all those young people come and compete, and it's a big thing when you actually even nominated to compete with those other big stars, and that's when people start knowing that, oh, this kid has something and he wants to take it to a different level. And this is, Esther, for me just to add about Amy, is one of the young people who strongly feels like the Rundy's music today needs to be known, because he feels like Nigeria has took over and other countries have taken over, that Rundy's music is not known. So he wants to make sure people know about it. And that's why he's working with Afro Sound and DJ Serge, who's making the music popular.
He started with the church back in Rwanda, and then R&B, and now
and then Afro Sound.
And can you tell us a little bit about that song? He was singing in Rwandese.
He told me about that song, but because I don't speak,
you wouldn't understand what
he explained that to me as it was definitely about a girl, it was about jealousy, something like that. But I can't really tell you exactly what.
But he's going places. So
he's definitely going places, and he wants to keep singing also in his language.
He wants to keep singing, and so is he planning to do more collaborations?
Definitely. Matter of fact, he's actually doing in September. He's doing collaboration with Techno Flavor and P Square, who are major Nigerian and Ghanaian artists. So he's going to perform with them this September, which is big for him. And like I was telling you, he's now leaving his community to make it bigger in other African.
Highlighting and spotlighting Rwanda, making Rwanda known.
Exactly.
Artists.
That's right.
Well, these young Africans are doing something.
Oh, they're doing great. They're doing great.
Roger, as usual, thank you for your fantastic,
thank you for having me.
insight into music.
Thank you.
All right. Roger Montu is host of RM Show, and that's our show for today. We leave you now with more of the smooth sounds of Emmy. Have a great weekend.
Where do you want to go? Where do you want to live? Baby, my love, umutima ukunda naho wagiye reka da ashwida garura ituze wihangayika turacyari kumwe kukwanga kukwirengagiza kukubeshya ndamutse mbikoze n'abantu ari umuntu ma chérie, ma la vie, ma chérie, ma la vie. Ndamutse mbikoze n'abantu ari umuntu ma chérie, ma la vie, ma chérie, ma la vie. Utasiyafa ntiyamenya hagana yoho aho tuvuye ni kure yegisi irahinduka n'abantu bagahinduka ariko njyewe mbarire murabo reka da ashwida garura ituze wihangayika turacyari kumwe kukwanga kukwirengagiza kukubeshya ndamutse mbikoze n'abantu ari umuntu ma chérie, ma la vie, ma chérie, ma la vie. Ndamutse mbikoze n'abantu ari umuntu ma chérie, ma la vie, ma chérie, ma la vie. Ndamutse mbikoze n'abantu ari umuntu ma chérie, ma la vie, ma chérie, ma la vie.
Welcome to English in a Minute. A plate is a dish that you put your food on.
Have a lot on your plate.
Hey Anna, I'm having a party this weekend. You should come.
I wish I could, but my weekend is really busy. I'm baking a wedding cake, writing my article, teaching 2 classes, and oh, my parents are visiting.
Wow, you have a lot on